Radio Brockley, now officially London's #1 hospital radio station.
Hello and welcome to Brockley News, Radio Brockley's weekly show, keeping you up to date with all you need to know about what's happening in and around the hospital. I'm Alan Joyce, and coming up today I'll be having a chat to Paul Parrish from the Aspire charity, who's attempting to become only the 14th person in history to complete the notorious Arch to Arc triathlon, which would see him run, swim and cycle all the way from Marble Arch in London to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. You can hear all about his story over the next half an hour. Then at 8:30, your chance to win some Radio Brockley goodies on Bedside Bingo. Good luck if you're playing along. The patient rep should be up with you very shortly. David Rauch will be calling out the numbers tonight. And then at 9, it's all your choice of tunes on the Sunday Request Show with Keith Reeve. So stay tuned to the award-winning Radio Brockley. With me now in the studio, I have Paul Parrish, who is the Director of Fundraising and Marketing for the Aspire National Training Centre. And he's got an amazing challenge coming up, which we're going to find out more about. So, hi, Paul. Welcome to the studio.
Hi, Alan. Thanks for having me here.
Tell me firstly how you became to be involved with the Aspire charity.
I knew about Aspire from many years ago with a friend of mine. I was a triathlete, and one of our triathletes was knocked off her bike and was paralysed. And as I got into triathlon, the triathlon club that I joined did all its fundraising for Aspire. So I was aware of this charity a long, long time ago. And when about 18 months ago, the job came up here, I thought, right, I know this charity. I know what it does. I know the difference it's made. And I was looking for something, and this just fitted perfectly. And I've been very, very lucky to work here.
So tell us a bit about your role at the Aspire Centre. What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I'm the Director of Fundraising and Marketing at Aspire, and my responsibilities really lie around the income streams, how we raise the money to keep the charity going. So we're a charity that, helps people with spinal cord injury, and also the marketing. So, in this day and age, marketing and branding and all these sort of things are so much more important, and we need to make sure that people understand what the charity does, recognise it, and feel secure around it, understand it as a very professional place. So it's putting all these kind of bits of marketing in place and making sure as many people as possible know what we do and understand what we do, and hopefully support us as a result.
And tell us about some of the fundraising events that you do at Aspire, because you do many, many big events during the year. What do you have lined up for the next few months?
The biggest event we have, which anybody can take part in, runs between September and December, so we're planning that at the moment. We're planning quite a long way ahead, and that's to swim the width of the English Channel in the comfort of your own pool in a 3-month period. So it's about 1,500 lengths. It's a long old way that people do in a 3-month period, and we raise about £300,000 to £400,000 from that. It goes all around the country. People will take part, and then we get them to get themselves sponsored and send money in. We do lots of other events, and we've become very well known actually for swimming events. It's kind of quite fitting that I'm doing what I'm doing, which I'm going to talk to you about. But we have boats that take people across the channel in relay teams. Swimming the channel is a huge task, as I'll tell you. And we managed to get people for whom it's been a dream to swim the channel. And we put them in teams, and they do it. They go across. They set off from Dover, and they end up in Calais. And it's getting people to achieve their dreams. So a lot of the stuff we do is event based. London Marathon, cycling, quite active. We're not exclusively active. We've just had an event with Frank Gardner, the BBC security correspondent, and we have some great corporate events as well. Big dinners, big sports quiz dinners, which really well attended, and it just spreads the name, gets people involved in us, and I think they have a good time as well. And also they transcend probably themselves. They do something that is quite special to them, and they can feel really, really proud of.
And are there any specific projects that you're looking to fundraise for in the year ahead?
Where we're really looking to concentrate at the moment is on the grants programme that Aspire has, and that's basically for people who've had a spinal cord injury who having started their rehabilitation, realise that maybe they need a lightweight wheelchair, or maybe technology will help them as they move from outside the hospital, and they can apply to us for grants, and we want to fund them. And we never have enough money to fund the amount of applications we have, so we're really going to try as hard as possible to get some support behind that this year.
And for anyone listening who maybe thinks, that could be me, I mean, how would they go about applying?
Right, there's the website, the Aspire website, which is www.aspire.org.uk, or they can speak directly to Kim Elliott, who administers all the grants, and will give them as much information as they need. And her number is 020 420 6707, and Kim will be happy to help.
Brilliant. Well, let's talk more about your story now. And I was having a look at your blog the other day, and you mentioned on there that up until 2000 you had battled with booze before, and you were struggling to get fit, and now of course you're attempting this massive challenge which we're going to talk about. So what made you stop your battle with the booze up until 2000?
Well, probably from feeling really ill. Yeah. It's never a great thing to do. I was a very heavy drinker, very heavy smoker. I worked in advertising, and I think throughout my life I'd always thought that going out and having a good time was how it was done. And actually, I wasn't having a good time. I was actually getting very depressed. I was quite ill. I had a young family. I began to realise that just walking upstairs I'd get pins and needles in my arm. I couldn't get public transport anymore to appointments and meetings because I would overheat. I was very heavy. I was a big bloke. I'd put on a huge amount of weight, and I was not very well at all. And I lived a lifestyle, as I say. It was about lunches in those days. I think they're gone now, but towards the end of the 90s, I was quite senior in that. I was quite well known, so I could go out for lunch, and then that would carry on into the evening, and it was an awful lifestyle. And genuinely, it sounds okay. I mean, I'm sure some people listening think it sounds okay to me. It wasn't, and it was really beginning to take its toll. I had a young family, as I say, and I began to think, I'm actually not going to see my children grow up. So I was working at an organisation that had some charity places for the London Marathon, and I was so scared, really, really scared about what was happening. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to move on, and I guess I had one of those little moments of revelation that we get occasionally in our life, and I just thought, I've just got to stop this, and I'm going to do it now. And I walked into an office where they had some places for the marathon, and I said, you still got any of those places? And the girl said to me, yeah, who do you want it for? And I said, well, it's for me. And she went, you're joking. This was November the 22nd, 2000, and the marathon was in the April of 2001. I said, no, I really, really want that place. And she said, well, you got to be able to do this, and you got to raise some money. And I said, I'll do it. So I took the marathon place. I still remember the first run I ran. I live in a village outside a place called Harpenden, and the village is about 3 miles away from the station. And I'd gone into work with my sports kit, and I came home with my sports kit and ran from the station, and I couldn't run. I was too big. I was so ill. I've been smoking for so many years as well, and it just felt awful. And I just kept stopping, and I was in tears. I just thought, I can't. What on earth has possessed me? Why on earth would I do this?
I was going to say, it's a big jump anyway to think, I know, I'll attempt a marathon, not a 5k or a 10k or anything in between, a full-on marathon. I mean, you must have presumably gone through a stage very early on where you thought, as you say, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this.
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess I suppose I work on a psychology of extremes. There is an element of that which has probably helped me. But the one thing I worked out from that actual run that I talked about, which was so traumatic for me, made me feel so stupid, was that actually I had run some bits. And I thought, well, I could maybe run a little bit further. And that was the whole process, and the whole process that I still go through today, which is the fact that if I can run a mile, I could probably do a mile and a half at a push if I do that. And I did everything incrementally. So I thought, okay, I can do 10 minutes running, I move on to 12. And gradually, I mean, I'm a simple beast. I don't think these things through, and that worked for me. And I thought, and it's worked for me in life generally. Is that whole thing about if you do things a day at a time, if you split it up into small increments, you can just extend those. And I remember by the Christmas I was sort of running 10, 12 miles, and I was thinking, this is incredible, I can't believe this. And then people would start to comment, they'd say, God, you're changing, I don't know what that running's doing to you, mate, but it's really changing you. And of course I'd obviously packed up the booze, I packed up the fags, and it was having a massive impact really, really quickly. And that spurred me on to carry on and get to the marathon on the April of that year.
See, to me that in itself is inspiring enough, but in a way this is nothing compared to what you're about to try and do as your next challenge, which is the Arch to Arc challenge, which is quite incredible. I'll let you explain exactly what that is.
Yes, the Arch to Arc is, I guess it's the world's hardest triathlon, and it consists of running from Marble Arch down to Dover. So I run this in one go. It's an 87-mile run. And then after a relatively brief rest, I'll then swim the English Channel, which is 22 miles. And in reality is probably the hardest part of the whole task. And then assuming I get to Calais, which I'm going to do, I will then cycle from Calais to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, which is about 180 miles. And that is the Arch to Arc. Only 13 people have ever completed it. Many, many people have tried, and that's in a 14-year period. So it has a really high failure rate.
I was going to say, so let's just put this into perspective. This is the equivalent of basically 3 marathons before you even start the Channel swim, which in itself, we know from speaking to other people who've done it at the Spire, is an incredible challenge on its own. And then a 180-mile bike ride on top of that. I mean, what on earth made you decide you wanted to sign up to this?
Well, again, I think we go back probably to that marathon we've just talked about, and that understanding that actually you could begin to achieve quite special things. And I guess it's maybe my psyche. I began to raise money through doing longer and longer distance events. So I moved from Ironman, and then I had to go at a double Ironman, and then actually ended up twice doing a triple Ironman, which is... So
tell us what Ironman actually consists of.
Yeah, an Ironman, and it's again is one of those huge things that people know about. It's a triathlon. It's a 2.4 mile swim. That's about 160 lengths of a swimming pool, and then that's followed by a 112 mile bike ride, and then you get off your bike, and you'll run a marathon, a full marathon. So a huge undertaking, and it's always been seen as the kind of ultimate triathlon. And as I say, I discovered that I could do those, and then there was an organisation that did a double one, so that was 4.8 mile swim, 226 miles on a bike, and a 52 mile run, and that led to a triple, and you can do the maths. And having got those sort of things under my belt, and I always say I enjoyed them at the time. They had their moments, but you began to think actually there are certain things I can do that maybe I've been very, very privileged. I had no idea that this was in me, and I think a lot of it goes back to the original psychology of moving things on incrementally. I thought I could raise money. I did raise a lot of money for charity, about £30,000 for the hospices that I was working at. And I thought the Arch to Arc, it appealed to me because it had been done by so few people. I thought it would be a fantastic way of raising lots and lots of money for the charity that I'm working for, which is Aspire. So that's a long-winded way of saying that's where I am and how I've got here.
So compared to the triple Ironman that you've done before, I mean, how does this Arch to Arc compare in terms of distances and as a challenge for you?
In terms of distances, the Arch to Arc is a longer run, but a shorter bike ride. But the bike ride is kind of irrelevant to the Arch to Arc because everything centres on the Channel. The Channel is one of the hardest swims in the world. It is a huge undertaking. And to come off the back of a long, long run and to go into the swim is massive. It really is, psychologically and physically.
I was going to say, does it also the order is different because normally, as you say, you finish on the run. So how does that affect things in so much as you've done the really tiring triple marathon basically, and then the swim? Yeah,
it's not ideal. I'll be honest. With a normal triathlon, you start with a swim, and for this, with the Channel being the hardest part, I'd love to start with the swim. I would have a much better chance. But that's just the way it works. There's no Channel at Marble Arch, if you see what I mean. And yeah, I will be much more depleted by the time I get down to the Channel because of obviously the enormity of the run. So there's a lot of things that come into play in terms of the way I run down to Dover. I've got to make sure that I do it in a decent time so I don't miss the cut-off. But I also have to make sure I don't go too fast, because it will really, really hurt and really injure me. But I've also got to give myself time to recover at the end. So I can't go too slow either. And I've got to eat so much food along the way, because that's really, really important too.
You mentioned about missing the cut-off. I mean, is there a time limit that you have to get this done by? And are you going to have scheduled breaks, presumably, or going to have some? You're not going to be able to do this in one go. So,
yeah, I have to start the swim within 48 hours of starting the run.
Right.
So it gives me potential, again, it depends how fast I choose to run, but, say it's 22 hours. That actually gives me about 24 hours to recover and sleep, because sleep and food are going to be the most important things. Once I'm in the channel, it's whatever it takes then to get through to the other side, and in some ways we haven't really talked about the cycle, because if I get to Calais, the cycle ride will just be hopefully a kind of like celebratory 180 miles. Sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But I should finish the cycle. I have help with that.
The other thing that occurs to me as well is that I know from speaking to people who've done the channel swim before that it's weather dependent as well. I mean, supposing you run all the way to Dover and they say, well, you can't do the channel because the weather's not good enough. Could that happen? Or?
It could happen, and it has happened in the past to some people. And it means that the actual event it's not over, because I'll still do it, but I have such a long wait then in Dover, and they wouldn't stop me doing it, but it wouldn't go towards any of the records that would have been that have already been achieved. Basically, we rely on a weather report for 48 hours in the channel. We have to set everything when I set off by that weather report, and obviously things can change, but you're hoping you're going to get it about right. And I probably won't use the full 48 hours. I'll go and keep it a little bit shorter, so I can pretty much, I've got a better chance of getting the weather right.
And how long do you anticipate the actual swim will take?
My swimming's changing all the time. It's getting better. That's good. That's right. I'm really pleased about that. I think I'm 16, 17, 18 hours in the channel.
And again, you have to do this over what time period?
Well, the channel is as long as it takes me. I mean,
in one go?
In one go, yeah.
Wow.
You can't, in the channel, you can't touch the side of the boat. As soon as if I touch the side of the boat, if I ask for any outside assistance, apart from food which is floated across to me, the attempt's off, it no longer stands. And that goes for all channel swimming.
So you have to eat while you're swimming as well?
I have to eat while I'm swimming. I have to drink while I'm swimming.
And what can you eat whilst you're swimming along?
Oh, pork pies and Scotch eggs. No, I think it's one of the worst things that happens when you do these events is that you need to keep eating, but your body starts shutting down. It says it doesn't want anything, and in the channel in particular, if you're taking in so much salt water, you lose your appetite. So it's whatever I can get down myself. And I literally, over the course of doing these long endurance events, have tried everything from lentil dal to peanut butter sandwiches to just a whole... Marmite was big for a while in my life, yeah, but I've gone off that, so I've had too much of it now. And, anything you can get down you that's going to give you fuel.
I have visions of them throwing you fish out of the boat or something.
Well, fish, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. There's a lot of jellyfish as well, which we've got to be careful about.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got that.
So will you be attempting this on your own? I mean, obviously you'll have a support team, but are you actually attempting the challenge on your own? Yeah,
you can only do this on your own. But because of the channel, the nature of the channel, the dangers involved, they can only take one boat with one person at the same time, and it's not a relay or anything. I'm doing this as a solo attempt. So yes, I'll have a good number of support people with me, and actually lots and lots of friends now. It's going to be like a little want to join in. They sort of want to come down and see me do this. It's been 3 or 4 years really of working towards it. I mean, you could say it all started back in 2000, in November 22nd 2000 in a way. So it's been a long journey. 8-9 years ago I couldn't swim. There's another thing.
Really?
I couldn't swim. No.
Wow.
No, I'd never been able to swim, and I kind of went along, and I was thought I was too old, and I just practiced trying to do front crawl, and had an approximation, and gradually through the help and patience of lots and lots of people, I've learnt to swim, and I'm obviously going to attempt the channel.
One thing I don't know if we've mentioned, but you are actually attempting to be the oldest person to have ever completed this. You said only 13 people have ever achieved it, but no one has actually achieved it.
No one as ancient as me.
Yes, it's what I'm trying to say in a nice way.
Yeah. No, I know on my voice I sound really young, but no, I mean, and an astonishing 48 years old. Yeah, no, I'll be 49 by the time that I attempt it in September. I mean, I do also understand that I'm an amazingly privileged person to be able to even attempt it and think I have a good chance. I am very, very lucky, and I do understand that. And regardless of age or whatever, I'm very, very lucky.
Well, you say you're very lucky, but you've clearly put in a ridiculous amount of hard work and training. I mean, tell us about your training programme now as it stands in preparation for this in September, is it?
It's September, yes. Yeah. September. I'm on the tide of September the 15th.
Right.
So any time around that, I'll get the call to start running. In terms of preparation, there's a couple of things you should know. They're getting older now, but I do have a family. There was a deal that was done with my wife that everything had to be relatively family friendly. So training can be quite strange. It can be really early in the morning. So for instance, at the moment, I'll be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll be on a bike, cycle to the swimming pool, put in a really hard session in the swimming pool, and then cycle to work. Don't tell anyone that, and I just get a shower and just pretend I've come in normally. I will do that 3-4 days a week. Probably run a couple of times in the evening if I'm not ferrying children around, so I have to fit it around that. Weekends I'll get up very, very early and I'll put in a really long swim, probably on the Saturday. We're talking 3-4 hours, which in a swimming pool is so mindlessly boring, but and then a very, very long run at the weekend as well, so maybe 20 odd miles. And I get up again really early, so sometimes I'll get home from a 20-mile run and my wife will still be asleep.
Wow.
And she'll say, "Have you been out?" Yeah.
Just a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I can get a little bit, what's the word? I can get a little bit short-tempered towards the afternoon sometimes. Yeah. And I put it this way, if ever I sit still for a minute, I'm almost narcoleptic. I just go straight into a sleep, so I have to keep moving.
And you've got to keep this up, obviously, until September, and then presumably sort of gauge it so that you're not too exhausted before you actually start. So have you got a full training programme up till pretty much the day? Yeah, I mean, the swimming actually increases, so there will be a lot of trips down to Dover. This is where actually it doesn't get family friendly, I'll have to be honest. I will be going down to Dover. The end is in sight. This has been a long process, and it would be wrong not now to give it everything to get there. So there'll be a lot of trips down to Dover. I've got a 100-mile run coming up at the beginning of May, which is a strange thing. That's a training run, and it's just to make sure that I'm psychologically more than anything probably fit enough to take this on. Yes, I can't be tired by the time I do it, so sort of 2-3 weeks beforehand pretty much everything will sort of really begin to scale down, and I'll begin to eat and sleep as much as possible, and that will be, and we will see where that takes me, I guess, at that point. I don't know if you saw the programme on a couple of weeks ago in aid of Sport Relief with Davina McCall attempting something which is probably almost tiny, ridiculous as it sounds compared to what you're taking on, but you must have felt a lot of empathy with her, presumably, watching her go through that.
I did. I thought it was an amazingly brave thing to do. I mean, some of the purists and triathletes are saying, "Oh, this was, we're being critical," and I thought, no, I think anybody who tries to, because of my background, and actually Davina's got a very similar background to me, in fact, and I think anybody who's prepared to have a go at transcending the norm for themselves, putting themselves outside their comfort zone, I take my hat off to them. She wasn't helped by, February for me was terrible training because of the weather, and obviously for her, getting into that cold lake, she really struggled with that, and I really felt for her, because open water swimming takes a lot of getting used to. It's frightening. It is unbelievably cold when you cannot get your breath, and your body's telling you this is not a good place to be. So I thought she was really, really brave, and I was so delighted that she finished, and she raised over £2 million. That'd be a thing.
Well, that was what I was going to come up to. How much are you hoping to raise from this for the Aspire? Do you have a target?
Well, I've put a target on my Just Giving page of about £5,000, but there is that part of me that thinks, there's so much that I need to do. So much effort I've put into this. I'd really like to be closer to 10,000. It just seems such a huge thing to do, and it will be the last really big thing I do, because I can't see anywhere else I'd want to go after this.
I was going to say, you can't be talked into anything bigger than this, really, can you?
No, I don't think so. No. And there is even I've got a cut-off point.
So for anyone listening who is perhaps where you were at in 2000, who needs a bit of inspiration to kind of, kick on and do something as a challenge, what advice would you give to them? I
would say that if deep down you know that whatever it is, be it eating, drinking, shopping, whatever whatever your addiction is, and you know deep down that it's really troubling you and you're unhappy, I'd really advise you to do something, and the world will only get better. If you take away the choice of stopping that sort of thing, you'll actually find you have many more choices in your life. And I would really fix on something that you kind of think you want to do, and replace whatever it is that you're doing up to now with that, and just see how it goes. But the only thing you'll ever really give up or lose is probably your problems. You've got nothing to lose, and I really would just give it a go. You can always go back to what you were doing before. I mean, it's not like it's set in stone, but just see where it takes you. You'll probably be amazed.
And no matter what your ability, of course, the Aspire is there to help you with whatever ability you have. So
absolutely, and I think that's the thing for me about all sport is it should be for everybody. I think we've probably all had our own experiences at school and with kids, when we're growing up, about when sport can be intimidating, when you don't feel you fit in or it's right for you. Sport is something, or activity, general activity, I think, is something that you can't fail with. It will only make you feel better. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. Once you've got your body sort of pumping a bit more blood through it, it can only make you feel better. And you don't have to do the sort of stuff I do. For goodness sake, that would be mad. I would never do anything like that. But if you want to do a little run or something like that, do it, because you will only feel better. You feel a lot better than you would do after an evening in a pub. I promise you.
Sounds like good advice. Well, I think what you're taking on is inspirational, and the very best of luck to you for that. I look forward to talking to you again in a few months' time. How can people sponsor you then? Because I'm certainly going to do that, and I hope everyone listening is going to do the same. So.
Oh yes, I haven't sent you my Just Giving page, have I? No, you just reminded me there. Yeah, I do have a Just Giving page, which is at www.justgiving.com/Paul Parrish. That's Parrish. Arch to Arc. There, that was quick, wasn't it?
Do you want to say that one more time just so that people can jot it down?
Yeah, it's www.justgiving.com/Paul Parrish, Arch to Arc. But if you put in Just Giving and put my name in, it will come up. And it would be lovely if people would sponsor me. I'd really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Well, loads of luck to you for that. Thank you so much for coming down to the studio and telling us about it. As I say, I look forward to hearing how you get on. Thank you very much, Paul, for coming in. And good luck.
Thank you very much for having me.
What an incredible challenge he's taking on. If you do want to sponsor him, and I really urge you to do so, then do go to Google and then search for Just Giving Paul Parrish, and you'll find out all the details from there. If you want to listen to that interview again and other previous interviews, you can go to our website, radiobrockley.org, follow the links to our YouTube site for another chance to hear our recent interviews. Plus, you can catch up with more on Brockley News Extra 5 days a week at midday, and also Monday evenings at 8 o'clock for another chance to hear some of our recent topics as well, including our award-winning entry. Last week, of course, we won the HBA Award, the Hospital Broadcasting Award, for third best station of the UK, and Gold Award for best speech package as well. Coming up next on Radio Brockley, it is Bedside Bingo with David Rounch, your chance to win some goodies. Then at 9 tonight, it's all your choice of tunes on the Sunday Request Show with Keith Reeve. Brockley News returns at the same time next week, but from me, Alan Joyce. Good night.